welcome back to Aetheral Space. The first arc is over. There were thousands of people in the street congratulating
Yeah,
me.
all 7 Aetheral Space fans. It's funny
How dare
because
you?
I
There's
unironically
17
really
of us
love
now.
Aetheral Space. It doesn't get as much attention because it's not SCP, but I feel like there's like 5 people who do watch it, like, you know, like consistently, and I feel like we're all like mega fans of the series. It's like the cult, it's, you know, like the cult classic where there's like 8 people who watch the movie, but all
VHS
they
tape.
talk about is the movie. Except the only person I have to talk about Aetheral Space is with the author, so every time I want a theory craft, he's just like, who knows? I'm like,
Oh, so you got theories. You got any
yeah,
theories?
most of them involve who's gonna get with because I'm a fucking nut for shipping and romance, but I do have a couple of theories about like what's gonna happen with Musashi in the future and how his character's gonna go. Like, I changed my name on the server. I don't know if you guys noticed or if it'll be gone by the time this is up, but I changed my name to XX
can't
Musashi
believe.
Fan 98XX because I like.
You've shifted so much from Musazi's
He's
so
my favorite.
stupid. You keep
He's my
spoiling the
favorite
shit,
character
and now you're like,
because in a
Musashi
different
somehow.
series, if this was written from a different perspective, I feel like he would be the main character, betrayed by someone he trusts. It's very common for a protagonist to be naive and like, you know, deceived by like the fucked up people around them. So like to see how he grows from this, he's been deceived by
Rising of the
yeah,
Musashi
no, this
hero.
could totally be a side series. Think about it. Like, he's betrayed by Dragon, who he trusted. He's betrayed by Prescott, Mayor Raquel, and even Goalie. So, and he's a special officer, so he already has a lot of freeform. So there's a couple ways this could go. He could keep being naive and being the character he is, sure, but I feel like there might be a point where he just stops trusting people and kind of closes his heart a little bit. And I wonder how that's going to change his behavior in the future towards allies and enemies alike. I wonder, like, for example, I wonder if the next time he sees Dragon, he'll be like, come back to us, it's not too late, or if he'll be like, you betrayed me, die. Like, I'm like, genuinely curious how it's gonna go.
Okay, well, hopefully I'll fulfill your expectations.
Alright, so here we are on 2.1. Let's get into it. I've got a little bit of wine. Yeah, I do.
Really?
Here's a funny story.
I do not drink
I bought
wine.
like the cheapest red wine I could get at the store, and I accidentally bought really dry wine, so it tastes like Catholic Mass. Like if you've ever been to church and they make you drink the wine from the bowl.
Well, maybe that might actually be a little bit appropriate for the.
Really? Alright, let's get into it.
Well, maybe.
Dragon landed on the grass with a thump, a pang of numb pain ringing out from his newly healed arm. Grabbing a fistful of grass as he clenched his fist, he kicked backwards at his assailant, and missed. Skipper simply stepping out of the way of his attack. I assume they're training. Blue aether coated Dragon's body, but Skipper was handling him easily with just his base physical activities. The sparring's meant to end when you fall down, kiddo, said Skipper, smirking. Dragon growled. If you listened, you might make out the barest impressions of a word, but it was really just frustration. They'd walked a short distance from their encampment to spar. Skipper wasn't worried about anyone seeing them. He just didn't want to get in anyone's way. Apart from Dragon's, obviously. You give up way too easy,
You can
sighed
see the
Skipper.
salt. It comes up his inner monologue.
Hands on his hips, looking down at him.
Oh, let me correct that.
Oh, he did. I was gonna say, did he get his arm back? I thought it was gonna like that was like the foreshadow. Hand on his hip, looking down at him. When you dodged me there, you could have stayed standing. You didn't need to roll into the ground, you know. Dragon glanced away. If I'm going to lose anyway, he said, what's the point in dragging it out? Dragon, this is literally the point of training. Why are you like, I might as well trade less if I'm gonna trade. Why do you assume you'll lose? He rolled his eyes. Because I lost the last 50 times. That's why. Anyone who plays sports will tell you a big part of getting better is envisioning success. If you always assume you're going to fail, you're going to create a mental block for yourself. I would think someone as smart as Dragon would know better, but I do know he's also very prideful.
Yeah,
and he's lost
salty.
50 times in a row. Skipper held up a finger and grinned. Well, you never know. Never won? Never know.
Oh,
51
you
could
never
be your
won?
lucky
Never
number.
know.
It wasn't. I just lost. Well, don't give up on 52. Dragon clambered to his feet, brushing the grass of his knees. Off his knees, I assume. This is the era of Tanhony makes a lot of typos. Whatever. Are we done now? I'm tired out. There you go again. Giving up! He shot Skipper an exasperated glare. Yeah, I'm giving up. Sue me. Oh my god. Fucking 2000s got, like, emo music in the background.
body too small to contain all his salts.
As they walked back to the encampment, Dragon glanced at his surroundings. After spending perhaps the worst day of his life in the industrial wasteland of Kalis Brek, the grasslands of Yaslav were is that how you say it? Or is it like... Yeah, Yaslav were a welcome contrast. Pure green fields stretched to the horizon in every direction, interrupted only by the occasional thin tree or half-eroded ruin. Get some dry wine in me. A yellow sun blazed in the sky a comfortable distance away. I hate that you actually have to specify that, because every fucking sci-fi setting is like, we have 2 suns, and one's blue and one's green.
Tatooine has 1 million suns.
Not too...
That's why it's
not
so
too
hot.
cold, not too hot. What is it, fucking porridge or a star? That was probably the reason the planet's original occupants, had settled here in the... Ooh,
no.
Yoda had settled here in the first place. Imagine having an entire planet to yourself. I guess that's like how rich people have an island, right? Like, if you're wealthy enough, you just buy a planet, and you're like, this is my planet. Actually, that would be really cool, right? Because you could explore the entire planet yourself. It'd be like your own open world RPG. Because, like... because in the real world, everything's already been discovered, like, geographically. But imagine just exploring a new planet. That sounds like so much fun. Assuming you don't get a disease or, like, run into, like, a crazy predator or something. Their encampment was built out of the grand ruins of a large fortress. Tents and temporary build... I was about to ask if someone's made a game about that, but then I remembered that's what No Man's Sky is. Large fortress. Tents and temporary buildings littering the ground around it. Their ship parked a short distance away, shining with reflected sunlight. People came back and forth, carrying articles out of the ruins for inspection. A young woman... So there are more than just them around.
So, yeah, it's a different...
Okay.
We'll see.
A young woman with long white hair and patchwork... Is this going to be like a... Sorry, I keep fucking interrupting myself. Is this going to be like a hive mind? Like, oh, all the people are one people? Did I call... A young woman with long white hair and patchwork clothes stood in the center of the settlement, calling out orders from a script's holographic screen floating in front of her. She looked up as they approached. "Mr. Skipper," she smiled. "Mr. Hadrian. Having a pleasant day?" "I sure am," smiled Skipper, stretching. "Not sure about the kid, though." "Funny," said Dragon. "What a funny guy you are." This is... Oh. Tanhony, this is literally just you. Are you Dragon? What a funny guy you are.
A bit of me did slip in there.
Tanhony has said this to me, this exact line, like, probably at least 10 times. More than that, but... It's so fucking... What a fucking guy you are. I'll kill you. The girl, Helga, if Dragon remembered correctly, offered a sympathetic smile. "Keep at it, Mr. Hadrian. I'm sure you'll get him yet." Dragon nodded wordlessly and followed Skipper towards the ship, moving on. They weren't alone here at the ruins. Skipper had brought them here to take refuge with a sect of humilists. Is it humilists or humilists? Humilists. From the final church that were friendly with whoever it was he worked for. Ooh, final church. It's like church, but more dramatic. Yeah,
the last boss.
It's in Final Fantasy.
The last boss of Christianity.
Yeah, Jesus is the priest. The supremacy would no doubt be looking hard for them after the stunt they'd pulled on Kalis Brek, so they needed to lay low for a little while. And do you think the final church has to pay taxes on the planet?
It's its own sort of government, so...
And Skipper was clearly taking the opportunity to humiliate Dragon under the pretense of providing training. "You know what your problem is?" said Skipper as they walked towards the ship, grass crunching underfoot. "I'm being beaten up every day by the most annoying man in the world." No. You're very lucky to be beaten up by my esteemed fists." Fist? Did you just forget you took away his fucking arm?
No, I've done it physically. Almost every time he's physically described, I am making sure to not to... I just missed it.
Besides, I'm not beating you up.
Anyway, maybe that could have been his mistake.
Actually, that would be funny if you kept it my esteemed fist. Besides, I'm not beating you up. I'm training you. I'm training you. He paused for a second. What were we talking about again? "You were about to tell me what my big problem is. I'm waiting with bated breath here, you know." Oh my god, Dragon is fucking every, annoyed goth kid who hates their parents. He's like, just get out of my room, Skipper.
You're not my real dad,
Hey,
Skipper.
Kid, don't say that. "Ah, right," Skipper snapped his fingers. I love how my Skipper voice is like a shitty Patrick Warburton. "Your big problem, Mr. Hadrian, is that you keep trying to hit me." Dragon shot him a skeptical glare. The advice, as per usual, was near incomprehensible.
I have to say, recently I've been imagining Skipper as like a young Jackal for some reason. Like Jurassic Park.
I want to make a guess before we keep reading that he's going to be like, you should be aiming for where I'm going, not where I am. Skipper chuckled awkwardly at the harsh look. No, come on now, hear me out. When we train, the only thing you're trying to do is get a hit in with your Aether. Your only objective is landing a punch. If I'm not at the point where I can land a hit on you, said Dragon, raising an eyebrow, there's not much else I can do, is there? You keep trying to hit me like that, and it's predictable, said Skipper, clearly ignoring him. All I have to do is keep dodging and you tire yourself out. You're thinking that hitting me is your win condition, but it's not. The win condition would be knocking me down. Oh, that's weird. You emphasized to me instead of down.
Well, because
yeah,
usually he's the
would be
one getting
knocking
knocked
me
down.
down. Oh, that makes sense. Well, that'd be impossible. Because you don't try! I don't try because it would be impossible. If you waste your energy trying to do something when you already know you can't, you're an idiot. Okay, this is actually interesting to me. I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but I feel like you did a really good job writing Hadrian like this. Because I don't know if you know this about, like, gifted kids or kids who are smart, but, you know, kids who are smart and things come easy to them when they're young and, like, everyone praises them all the time. Later in life, when they can't pick something up immediately, they often drop it or struggle to keep going, and they, like, feel like they're falling behind. So it's really interesting to see a character who's of, like, a race or a genetic disposition where he's, like, really smart, so when he doesn't immediately pick something up, he just gives up and says it's impossible or not for him. That's a very realistic mindset, I think, for him to have, not just because he's prideful. And I don't know if you did that intentionally or not, but well played.
Of
Skipper
course.
sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You're not an easy...
Oh, I forgot he doesn't have a nose anymore!
Rubbing the bridge of his nose with both hands. You're not an easy guy to talk to, you know. You know, kiddo? That's not true. I'm charming and lovable. It was somewhat satisfying to be able to annoy Skipper after so long of experiencing the opposite. It was a small victory, but honestly speaking, it was the only one Dragon would be able to achieve. They arrived at the ship, the gaudy yacht sitting in the grass. Ruth lay on a deck chair a short distance away, wearing a pair of sunglasses and scrolling through her script. Bruno and Serena were nowhere to be seen. How long did it take you to win, Skipper? Ruth called out as they reached the ship. 19 seconds, said Skipper, looking much too happy for someone who had just assaulted a poor, innocent clerk. 2 seconds longer than usual. Nice, she said. Dragon rolled his eyes. Skipper...
I wonder how much text is taken up by the phrase Dragon rolled his
Skipper
eyes.
looked his head into the ship. Would poked his head be better?
Oh. Yeah, that's probably why
Skipper
I'm trying
poked
to
his head
write.
into the ship. How's the refueling going, Bruno? Bruno's voice was distant, muffled. Bad. The fuel converters are set for fancy jet light stuff, not the organic type the humanists have. Keep at it, pal, Skipper said, thumping the... I hope all the voices aren't too similar. I'm trying my best. Skipper said, thumping the metal wall encouragingly. We got an ETA? Oh, hey, I talk like that. Dragon wasn't sure how the resulting rattling was meant to do anything but give Bruno a headache. It's done when it's done, snapped Bruno back. And when's that? When it's done! Roger Dodger! Oh my god, this guy does talk like me. Am I Skipper? Said Skipper, throwing up an exaggerated salute. Bruno rolled his eyes. Well, Dragon assumed he rolled his eyes. He couldn't see Bruno, but he was sure there was nobody in the galaxy who could witness that display and not feel exasperated. He glanced down at Ruth, still lounging in the sun. It'd probably go faster if you helped, you know, he said, raising an eyebrow. I can't, smiled Ruth, patting the bandage on her arm smugly, the spot where a toy Muzazi had cut through it with his sword back on Kalis Breck. I'm hurt. Why don't you help? Why don't you help? Wait, did her arm get cut off and it got reattached, or did she just get...
No, it got cut.
I'm injured, said Dragon. Oh, so is fucking everybody. Everybody...
Exactly. Yeah, exact same excuse.
Bruno has to do everything. Everyone's like, I'm injured. Oh, I can't be fucked. You know, it's a shame, but I got a boo-boo back on Kalis Breck, so... Sorry, Bruno. I'm injured, said Dragon. Besides, Skipper's got me doing all this pointless sparring. I don't have the time. I already... So you probably won't do this because it's overly cliche and it doesn't necessarily fit the tone of the writing of Aetheral Space, but I love the idea of, like... You've seen Karate Kid, right? Skipper's gonna keep doing this training, and then he's gonna get in a fight where he's gonna flashback and he copies, like, the roll or whatever. He's like, oh, I understand!
He just rolls through them.
He fucking invincibility frames a roll through an Aether shot.
Oh,
he actually rolls into the Aether, but he has invincibility frames. Actually, that would unironically be a really cool Aether power, like a defensive one, where when you roll, like, Aether generates around you so you're temporarily invisible during the roll. That'd be really cool. Invincible, not invisible. Ruth raised her sunglasses, peering at him from behind them. It isn't pointless. If you're going to be running with us, you need to be able to handle yourself. I can handle myself. She looked skeptical. The first time we met, I beat you up in like half a second. That was different, said Dragon, glancing away. You were cheating. Excuse me. Ugh. Ooh. How was I cheating? I need to go. It's like video game dialogue. How was I cheating? I need to go now, said Dragon, walking back over to Skipper. Hey, Skipper, I'm going to let these poor bastards know they'll have to deal with you for another couple of days. Skipper's head was still poking into the ship, and he clearly wasn't listening. He'd taken a liking to the yacht, it seemed, and was determined to make sure it stayed in flying shape. No surprise it was his priority right now. He said. Yeah, cool, go for it. Stretching, hearing his joints crack with dull satisfaction, Dragon headed back over to the Humalists' compound. The ruin they'd made their encampment around was a strange construction. He'd called it a fortress earlier, but it was more like a palace than anything else. It was nothing compared to the Heart building, but it was still damn big. You could probably fit 50 star yachts in the building and still have room to walk around. Holy shit. I assume that's pretty big. The tents around the palace were pretty sizable, but in comparison they were like ants. The size of history, Dragon supposed. The older a thing was, the more time it had to get gaudy. You know, there's a little bit of truth to that. Speaking of gaudy, Dragon couldn't help but wince as he approached the encampments, saw the kind of clothes the Humalists were marching around in. The Humalist sect of the Final Church believed in becoming closer to God. To why? Through ultimate humility. They didn't have... Well, rip fucking Dragon, then. They didn't have the arrogance to make a single new thing, and only used that which had previously been thrown away. Oh, so they're like big recyclers. As such, all their clothes were pretty much patchwork, clashing colors fused together into a nauseating rainbow. Dragon didn't want to judge, but couldn't there at least have been an attempt at color coordination? Even the ship they'd come in on, a vertical rocket jutting up out of the ground, looked decades old at least. Salvaged, without a doubt. As Dragon came back to the center of the Humalists' camp, Helga looked up from her script, eyes glittering. "Isn't it exciting?" she said, grinning. Obviously, she'd received some good news. Helga was just slightly better dressed than the rest of the Humalists. The different patches that made up her dress were mostly the same color, at least, even if the sleeves looked like they'd once been the legs of a pair of pants. Apparently, Helga's group of Humalists were focused on archaeology. Dragon supposed that made sense. Digging up the bones of the past was the ultimate form of salvaging, in a way. From the look on her face, her crew had obviously made some kind of discovery. "What's exciting?" he said, cocking her head? he fucking grabs her and turns her head. "Tell me." Truth be told, he wasn't really that interested, but he thought it better to indulge her before giving her the bad news. She turned the... Bad news? Oh, that they're gonna stay around. She turned the script towards him, still grinning widely, and as Dragon looked at the screen, he saw that it was displaying an image of some kind of sphere. Oh god, is this the anti-mimetic thing from episode 1 of Discovering SCP? The object was slowly rotating. Clearly it had been scanned for this kind of display. Strange pinprick holes covering its surface. "Do you know what this is?" said Helga, almost hopping in place in excitement. "Yeah, of course," said Dragon automatically. A moment later, he corrected himself. No. What is it?
Instinctively lies.
To be fair, I used to do that as a kid. I would like, yeah, I know it, and then actually I don't know that. What is it? Because you wanted to sound smart. What am I...
To be fair, that was when you were a kid.
Dragon is a fully grown adult. "This," she said, tapping...
Well...
Wait, how old is Dragon again?
Small boy.
He's okay, 18, so like 19, he's barely small. Legal adult. Young...
Yeah.
That actually makes more sense. For some reason I thought he was like 30.
No, he is
"This,"
not 30.
she said, tapping the script screen with her. How old is everyone? Like, how old is Ruth, Bruno / Serena, Skipper?
I will go over that another day.
"This," she said, tapping the script screen with her hand, "is a pheromone sphere." Oh god. It's what the gene tyrants used to store information. Oh, never mind. "Oh, if this belonged to Elizabeth, the kind of history it could hold." Dragon scanned the object, looking the image up and down. "How's it work? Are the holes like Braille or something?" She shook her head vigorously. No! You see, the way it worked was that in the center of the sphere, you'd have this organic core, engineered of course, that released pheromones that, when absorbed by the right kind of sensory organ, could communicate tremendous amounts of information. Reading through smell? Actually reading through smell! Incredible, isn't it?" Yeah, I guess so," said Dragon, nodding awkwardly. "How are you supposed to read it, though? You're no gene tyrant. You can't just grow whatever kind of organs you want." Helga waved a dismissive hand. "Minor details. Once we get back to the Humalist fleet, I'm sure they'll have a computer lying around that can read this type of information." It must be hard to be a Humalist, Dragon thought. You always had to hope something was just lying around, or else you'd never get anywhere. Were they allowed to light their own fires, or did they have to stand around and wait for lightning to strike? He was tempted to ask. Here's hoping, he said, swallowing his unkind words. So, I actually need to tell you something. Helga had already turned around, was already rummaging around in one of her many boxes of scrap. Hold that thought, she said, holding a finger up. Excuse me. I need your help with a thing. Dragon glanced away. Well, it'll only take an hour or two, don't worry. We just need someone combat ready to escort us while we're digging through the palace. He stepped forward, concern quickly flaring up. Combat ready? In what world was he combat ready? Now, hold on just a second. Helga did not hold on for just a second. Instead, she stuffed an old flashlight into his hands, followed by a pair of generation-old vision goggles and a piece of mining equipment coated with so much rust it was impossible to tell its former shape. Before long, he was holding a veritable pile of, well, there was no nice way to say it, a veritable pile of trash. Dragon sighed. This was going to be a long day. Ooh, how exciting!
Ooh, Indiana Jones.
This episode was a little longer than normal because I kept interrupting with my thoughts. Sorry, I'm just so excited to finally be reading Aetheral Space again.
Nice.
How does it feel for you? It's been 2 weeks for you too.
Yeah, I like it when people read my stuff.
Do you?
If you have any theories, please leave them in the comments.
I'm interested, Tan, because I try to do my best voices for the characters, as you know. I'm curious, how do you imagine their voices? Is it anything like what I'm doing, or do you have like your own idea in your head of what they sound like?
You're pretty much a spot-on skipper,
Nice,
I have to say.
Nice.
Bruno, I'm not sure whether I would have the same voice with Bruno, but it's not like a bad voice or anything. But I can't see what's really different in my head from it.
Perhaps not as gruff,
you know what
maybe
I mean.
more annoyed.
Maybe not gruff, not as gruff
Yeah,
there.
rather than this, something more like this.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
Bruno Del said, and I'm Serena. I imagine Serena's like super peppy.
Sort of. Yeah. Bruno's sort of like annoyed and professional.
Have you played Genshin Impact yet? Serena's like Paimon. That's what I imagine.
Emergency reference. Right, so in order to understand this episode of Aetheral Space, you must have played
please,
Genshin
you've probably at
Impact.
least seen the YouTube ads everywhere. I see them all the time. But I gotta say, what about appearances? Have you thought about getting any art done yet? Like, what do you imagine?
I would love to. I'm thinking about it still. I would love to do like a little shitty doodle of.
It's like a
somewhere.
Microsoft Paint.
Well,
You drew the thing for the
reference.
interview,
Yeah.
original interview video with Roger, right? You drew that in Paint.
I didn't know that. I
Oh.
didn't know to do that.
So you, like me, have zero artistic talents. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Well, hopefully we'll get to see some of that soon. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you stuck with the video, and we will see you next time. Any closing remarks, Tan? All right,
That's
bye.
Bye.
All right, do I click the